probably have this figure, and you've probably already forgotten about it because it's sitting up on a shelf somewhere. Well, I just recently picked this one up and decided to work on it a little bit more than just what the package presents. As you can see, pretty much it's only two tones, and it really could use a lot more work on it because there's so much detail into this figure. All these McFarlane figures have so much detail worked into them, and they really have a lot of potential. But to keep it down for 20 bucks, they gotta keep down the amount of labor that goes into these, because by the end of time that you get into these figures, you could easily spend anywhere from 2 to 4 hours just to make it look that much more what you envisioned as far as your comics or your artwork that you've seen somewhere. So the best thing to do is break this thing apart and get down to business with some graphite. So if you're going to use the graphite, make sure you put down a wet paper towel to pick up any of that excess powder. It does stain, so if you want to use gloves, that's totally up to you. I have other videos that have this process in it, but I'll do it on this one as well. Again, keep in mind that it's only certain figures that actually work with the graphite really well, and it works best on dark colors. In this case, the black and the dark gray works out really well. I'm going to apply it to the areas that only need it. Well, in my opinion, it's just going to be the darker areas. I want it to look a little bit more, pick up some more light in those dark areas so that I don't have to do excessive painting. And we'll see how it looks. In the end, I could end up changing my mind and totally change the figure in the end. Now, most of you will say that that's just a waste of time to do this and then go back and do it over. And to many, it may be a waste of time. I personally like doing this, so it's not. I enjoy it even if I change it 2-3 times. So in the end, being an artist, you many times do change your actual final product several times over until you have the desired look. So I may spend easy 2 to 3, even 4 hours on a figure until I get what I want out of it. Even if I plan ahead, in the end, it looks okay, but it could always look better. So as you can see on the leg, I'm applying it much more to the metal areas of the boot because I want them to look metallic. I still will have to go back in and do a dry brush to give it some wear on the very edges. But as you can see, I'm using an old brush and just lightly brushing this into all the crevices. And once you're finished, you do need to seal it. So I personally use a Model Masters clear coat. I use the semi-gloss in this case because I want it to look metallic. I want it to have a sheen. I don't want it to look flat. So we'll see how that goes. Now here's the leg on the right that does not have the process applied to it. And you can all see the metal already coming through as a more of a metallic look. So it really makes the textures in the detail come out that much better. So I'll speed up the process on these. I'll let you enjoy the rest of the video because it's pretty much the same thing for the next few clips. So now that we've applied our graphite, we are going to go back in and just touch in some details on the areas that need a little bit of wear and tear. And I picked up a little bit of the silver and I mixed in even a little tiny blue into it to show some wear and some color changes in the metal as if it actually was in a different light. We'll see how this picks up. Apply it very lightly in a dry brush, and when I mean dry brush, literally the brush is almost dry. You're pretty much rubbing the paint off of it, and you're going in the opposite direction of the texture so that actually it picks up the paint coming off of the brush itself. So you might have to push down a little harder into certain areas as the paint comes off of the brush and becomes empty, and then you'll have to reload it again. Load it very lightly so that you don't overdo it, and that's one thing you have to be careful. You can overdo the dry brushing if you're not too careful. The rest of the process is the same on the leg and the arms, and it's just a repeat on the next segment, so I'll catch up with you in just a moment. As you can see here, you can really tell a difference between one arm and the other that has the detail done to it. Once again, a dry brush with the silver. I chose a smaller brush this time to get into the smaller areas, and I'm just lightly skimming across the surface, letting the texture take the paint off the brush. The brush is pretty much almost dry. That's why it's called dry brushing. So as you can see, it's already picking up a metallic look, a worn look on the edges of the gauntlet. I'll continue this process on the other arm as well, and then you'll see the big difference in the finished product. Now the main reason why you're able to see these changes that I'm doing on this figure is because I'm holding up the piece so close to the camera. Further away it's harder to tell, especially in the different lighting that you put it in. But you can see here the difference in the one without the dry brush and the one with. We'll continue doing that to the other leg to give it the same detail so they actually match. But toward the end of the video you'll see that even with what I've done here, you do need to light your figure correctly to show up all of the nuances that you painted onto it. To make it look this way without any lighting, yeah, you'd have to go excessive and paint everything on it, even darker colors or brighter colors, and then it just doesn't look as real. It just looks cartoony. I am not into the cartoony look on this figure. I want it to look a little more realistic, a cross between the two, illustration and realism. But I'll show you the end images, and then you can decide for yourself if this is something that you would want to do or you want to skip over it. In any case, the dry brushing technique applies to any color application that you want to do on a figure to change its tone, its look, just entirely. It really makes a big difference. But as you can see, it is time consuming, so plan ahead, make some time to be able to do this. Even though it does dry quicker, it's best to let it dry at least 24 hours before you go back in and do a significant change, because the color wet on wet could reactivate it and you're just going to move colors around, they'll just bleed instead of actually being covered over by another dry brush effect or spraying on a whole different color. In any case, I'll catch up with you in just a moment. So after proceeding to dry the figure with a blow dryer to make sure that it's thoroughly dry before applying another dry brush, then I chose a blue to give it some metallic highlights as the metal would change color depending under the light that it's in. I didn't want just a silver look. I wanted actual metallic tones as metal changes when it's hot or when it's cold. Especially if it's treated differently. So in any case, I'm only doing this because I want to see how it looks. I may not even like the way it looks, but you never know until you try something. So don't be afraid to try it and then paint over it again and start over. And this is why I say that to some people it's a waste of time when you do this, but if you like doing the painting, then it's not a waste of time. It's actually a learning lesson. You end up deciding or learning that it doesn't look good on the figure, you need to change it or change it back to what it was, or just entirely change the color of it with a whole different palette. In any case, let me show you what this figure looks like with the before and after shots, the one from package and then the one without. Oh, before I go on, I did take some of that blue and threw some highlights of blue into the cape so it really separates the texture from the darker tones, and just very lightly. I don't want every single edge in blue. I want to only show a slight definition, so as the light hits it, it picks up better on the texture. But let me show you the before and after shots on the figure as we started. Well, here it is, guys, our finished product. It is sealed with a semi-gloss finish. It looks pretty cool. I definitely like it much better over the initial standard product that came in the package. I didn't do any significant changes to the head. Just added a little dry brush as I did to the grappling gun here. that blue over the silver really made it pop. And then the explosive gun, plastic explosive gun that he uses, it looks good. This is the product under the lighting. Honestly, I do like it. It does look better than the initial product, but in the end, I just wasn't 100% satisfied. I needed to go a step further, and this is what I did. I changed out the head. I just needed that little extra pow in it, and I changed the body color because I wanted it to look more metallic. After remembering that I saw the Arkham Knight Batman in the Hot Toys series, I decided I needed to go a little bit more extreme. So I took some chrome paint and I airbrushed over those same parts that I did the graphite on, and it actually stuck really well. It picked up really well. And this is what I came up with. I'm definitely a much happier. So many of you are wondering where I got this 3D printed head. Well, I got it off of eBay from Action Figure Customs out of Canada. And he does an exceptional job with this 3D printed sculpt. He's done several, and I've picked up a few of those to continue these projects. So these are really hard to paint. They're not as easy as they look. They take me quite some time. I'm just not as proficient at it. It takes me a while. Even with the airbrush, I still have to go in and do some detail work by hand with a brush itself, even adding different layers to get those correct skin tones. I just not into the one single tone looking cartoony. I want to get as much of the detail out as possible. I don't want it to look manufactured. I wanted it to look, well, I want it to look custom. So in the end, this is what I have. A finished portrait. I finally have the look that I want on the suit. And I'll leave you with some of the finished images. I hope you like it. Share it. Review it. If you have any questions, let me know. Enjoy your action figure customizing.